The iconic Cathedral of New York wasn't always in the heart of the city. In fact, the history of St. Patrick's Cathedral mirrors the history of New York City itself. Before the sound of traffic locked horns with the music of church bells, and before the building tops soared above its spires, St. Patrick's Cathedral was the only skyscraper in town. When Irish immigrants laid the cornerstone in 1858, they set in motion a building that would span generations.
Immigrant Irish laborers with no machines, no electricity.
To tell the story of America's great cathedral, we have to begin here in Little Italy, where the old St. Patrick's was built some 50 years before its successor.
Now this is considered Old New York, but at the time, again, anything north of Wall Street was, you're on your own out there.
Father Brian Graby is the pastor of the Basilica of St. Patrick's Old Cathedral. This is where Michael Corleone became the Godfather in that infamous baptism scene.
Do you renounce Satan?
But before this neighborhood became known for its Italian roots, the Irish were the largest immigrant group here.
They wanted to put their stamp on the diocese, and so what better way to do that than the iconic Irish saint?
When finished, Old St. Pat's was the largest indoor space in New York, standing in a dangerous place for Catholics and immigrants.
Is this it, priest? The Pope's new army?
Nativist gangs in nearby neighborhoods, like those depicted in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York, led the bishop to take extra precautions.
There's a tunnel underground that leads from the bishop's house into the cathedral. That's how unsafe it was considered, that just walking across the street into his church, the bishop was taking his life into his hands.
The wall built to protect the church from anti-Catholic riots still stands today.
So yeah, runs the length.
Yet for all the protection provided by this wall, it couldn't stop the devastation of a massive fire after the Civil War.
The cathedral had to be rebuilt almost from scratch.
That's when Italian Catholics left patrons of their own in the windows made for the Apostle of Ireland.
An Irish saint, but with Italian saints in the stained glass.
Now complete with Our Lady of China, a Vietnamese, and even a Spanish Mass.
It's really a great melting pot right here. Yeah.
Those who first came to the Lower East Side of this island can still be found resting in the tombs beneath Old St. Pat's.
We can go inside. Let's do it. Absolutely.
Inside these catacombs lie the remains of a Civil War general, complete with an altar where Father Graby still serves Mass.
Members of the general's family were buried down here.
That's not the only Civil War connection between these two cathedrals. It all started with a man they called Dagger John, an Irish immigrant who became the first Archbishop of New York.
Well, I'm sure he looks down from heaven and says, I had the right idea.
Bishop John Hughes' vision of a new cathedral in uptown Manhattan became known as Hughes' Folly. When the Civil War delayed construction, Hughes was sent as an emissary for the North.
So Abraham Lincoln used him or asked him for his help in going through parts of Europe to convince some of the European governments not to aid the South during the Civil War, but to stay with the Union.
Sadly, Archbishop Hughes never saw his vision through.
He died before the war ended, yeah.
When the new St. Patrick's was completed, they moved the Archbishop's body from these crypts to this resting place, underneath the altar of the building he started.
So these are all of the Archbishops of New York, are all buried here.
Monsignor Robert Ritchie serves as the rector here.
The Cardinal did the work upstairs.
If a cathedral is a prayer sung in stone, then this one is a place for all Americans to come together. When popes visit American shores, they come here. And from the assassination of President Kennedy to the World Wars and 9/11, Americans look to St. Patrick's for strength in the face of tragedy.
When 9/11 happened, again, the cathedral was filled with people crying and praying over the terrible tragedy. And during the months after the incident, funeral after funeral after funeral took place here at St. Patrick's. So it was, again, a unifying place for the people of New York and the people of America.
From the original St. Patrick's that survived anti-Catholic riots and a massive fire to this new St. Patrick's that's some 140 years old, the church has become a national rallying point. That's why they call it America's perish. Gabe LaMonica, CBN News, New York.